as well, where we'll honor our Questbridge Scholarship winners. And if you come back in January, we'll honor the Posse Scholarship winners. There's always plenty of good news. And then I always try to end with a provoking little piece of text for people to think about. And if you've been here for the last few meetings, I'm going to give the same exact piece of text. And it's not from the Bible, but it might as well be. Because it's just a nice little chunk. Just a nice little chunk that helps us think about this thing called community and culture and politics. And I think it gets to some of the challenges that we have here. And they're very common challenges that we have. So with that said, I'm just going to kind of dig into it. Started talking with our faculty last spring about this book that came out by Robert Putnam. It's called Our Kids. And in the book, it describes something that really isn't new to any of us. This idea that this thing called the American dream, which some of us think never existed, but for those of us who actually thought it might have existed at some point, it's in serious damage right now. So it's in a state of crisis. And so here's how this book describes the state of education in this country. This is the really sad part. So the American dream, of course, was right, you come to the United States, you work hard, you prosper. And that is actually not necessarily true anymore. It was true in the 1950s when the school was built. Hard work would mean that almost everybody in society could move forward. And it's not really that way anymore, and I know the people who are my age in the room, we know that the world has gotten tougher. This is what it looks like for kids. So the gray line are kids that are much more like our kids who aren't rich. The dark line are the wealthy kids. So if you're wealthy, high school graduation is really not a problem. Wealthy schools are not really concerned that their kids are going to graduate on time because they just do, 90%. But the poor kids in other schools, it's more like 63%. And how about just applying to college? Not even going to college, applying to college. The wealthy kids, 90% of the time they apply to college. The poor kids, less than 60%, right? How about enrolling in college? And that's something that we've been working on really hard here. Wealthy kids, or wealthier families, 90% of those kids are going to college. But in the poor neighborhoods and the poor schools, it's less than 50%. And here's the killer. Here's the killer, is that what percentage of kids actually complete college? Because it doesn't really mean anything to start college, because we know it costs money to go there. And if you go to college, in fact, I was just talking to a dad about this earlier. If you go to college and you don't get a degree, it's going to be very difficult to pay for that degree, right? Well, only 11% of the higher poverty kids actually graduate with a bachelor's, whereas the wealthier kids, it's well over 50%. So we're just living in a different world. And that's why the work that we do here is so important, so important. And here's just a great example of how schools can make things better or make things worse. A typical high poverty school has very, very few kids getting a chance to take advanced classes. Usually at a high poverty school, they only offer 4 AP classes. Whereas at a wealthy school, they offer 12 or more. So that's just one example of where Washington is not part of this data. Because at Washington, we offer 14 advanced level international baccalaureate classes, and we offer another 14 advanced level advanced placement classes, as well as 2 dual credit classes. And some people will look at this right here and say, Kevin, why are you doing that? Those kids can't really do that. Why are you pushing them into these challenging classes when we know they're not really well suited? Well, that's not what we believe at Washington. That is a deficit model, and we believe in our kids, and we believe that when we challenge our kids, that they'll do better. And that's pretty much what every parent thinks about their own children. The problem is that sometimes schools don't believe that about their own children. And that's not what we believe here. And so everything else I'm going to share with you is how we are not living this cycle. We live a different story here at Washington. But it's been, we've had to change the story. We've had to change the story. Here's the coolest part of Washington, I think. We are a regular neighborhood school. We're a regular neighborhood school. That means that all the kids who go to school here, they live right in our attendance boundaries. And the kids who don't live in the attendance boundaries, well, they live within a mile of the attendance boundaries, right? And they go to our IB program. This is more of a neighborhood school than any school in the city of Chicago. These days, the average neighborhood in the city of Chicago, only 25% of the kids go to the neighborhood school. And you can see we're like 65%. So that right there shows you that we still got some work to do. I know there are plenty of people in this community that still say, I don't want to send my kids to Washington. You know, hey Kevin, maybe you guys do a little bit more work. Or we know that some of those people are never going to be interested. Or they're just going to say, you know, my kid got into a selective enrollment school, so that's what we're doing. Okay, good for you. But we will not stop working hard here at Washington until everybody in this community believes that we can serve their kids. And that's exactly what we're trying to do. So when I first started here, I was actually hired by Tina and the local school council here. And when I was hired, one of the first questions they asked me was, hey Kevin, the state of Illinois has targeted Washington High School as a school improvement school, and they're trying to drive this grant in here. And actually Mr. Arredondo here was one of the biggest people who fought against it. And the entire school united against this. And I think for good cause, because the people here at Washington High School didn't believe that the state of Illinois had the best interest of the school in mind. In the process, I mean, we turned down millions of dollars. Why did we qualify for that grant? Because it was a low-performing school. It was a low-performing school, and the federal government was giving money to the states, and the states were giving them to high schools to turn them around. Now, the truth is, most of the schools in the country who got this money, they didn't totally transform their school. There are a couple of good examples in Chicago who did. Hancock High School, Southwest Side, they took the money and they did a great job. A couple others did too, but many did not. Right? And if you ever heard anything about a turnaround school, it was the same money, and many of those turnarounds didn't work. Well, I honored Tina's request, and I honored the alderman, and I honored the faculty, and we did not bring that grant in. And I can tell you, it certainly created some conflict between me and my brand new boss, Harrison Peters, because he wanted me to take the grant. But my old boss, Ernesto Matias, he said, Kevin, you work for the school, and you work for the local school council, and you have to honor what they want. And so I did. And guess what? We didn't take the money, and we transformed the school ourselves. 3 years. There is a federal definition of what a turnaround is. Turnaround has to start from a low level, and then no one likes the name turnaround, so let's just call it transformation. There's a federal definition of what a transformation is. It means you keep the same people in the building, and everybody gets stronger, and you serve the kids better. And that's what we did. And we improved metrics so much that it constitutes a transformation by a federal definition, because we did it in under 3 years. Here's what we did in less than 3 years. Took college enrollment rates from 35 to 59%. Took advanced placement enrollment from 5 to 24%. Grew the IB program to now 32% of the kids in the building are in the IB program. Some kids during their freshman, sophomore year do AP and IB. And then 4 years of improvement on the ACT. So we did a good job. We did a good job.